Well, welcome back to Santo Domingo for the final ITU World Cup race of the year. We've just seen the conclusion of the elite men's race, and now it's the turn of the elite women's race in a slightly shortened race because of the heat. There'll just be a 5K run coming up after the 1,500-metre swim and the 40-kilometre bike. Lisa Norden is alongside me. There's the lady in form at the moment, Ayueda, wearing number 2. We were hoping she was going to renew her rivalry with Sandra Dode, who held off the challenge of Ueda in Tongyong recently. But we understand Sandra Dode is one of a number of athletes with a little bit of food poisoning, so she won't be racing. So Ueda looking for another win to finish the season. 4 World Cup wins this year. 1 in Lima, 1 in Miyazaki. So can she get another victory here as well, I wonder? Well, let's take a look at the course. So it is 2 laps, 750-metre swim. Fairly straightforward, really. There's a little bit of a twist and a turn towards the end when they swim back towards the beach, but nothing that will cause them too many problems. 1,500 metres into the marina outside the Sanssouci Naval Officers Club. And then the bike, 5 laps, 8.48 kilometres. We're not 100% sure that that is the right distance because it certainly seems shorter than 40k, but 42.4k the total. As you can see, it's out along España Avenue before the 180-degree turn, coming back and a few twists and turns in the latter part of the bike before they come along the harbour wall, turning past the ships and then back into the blue carpet and onto the transition zone. And then the run, only 2 laps, as we say, just 5 kilometres because of the heat at the moment. So the women getting half the distance on the run for some safety reasons. And we mentioned Ayueda, it's a big day for her as well. It's her 200th start in top flight ITU racing as well. So a fantastic milestone for her, and she's very much in form, and we've seen her perform exceptionally well over the last few weeks.
Yeah, I think she gained a lot of confidence from these last couple of races. She had good swims. She's been in the front group, come off the bike, and her running has just been in a different level from the other girls.
Let's see if there's anybody here to challenge her. Lisa Pertera is the top-ranked athlete in the field. Just waiting for the introductions. So here are the athletes about to get underway. As we say, Lisa Pertera from Austria, 13th in the ITU World Rankings. Ayueda, despite 4 wins, is still only at 20th. Taylor Nibb and Kirsten Casper from the USA. No Yulia Yelostratova. She had a bike crash yesterday. She's had some stitches in her mouth and her knee, so we wish her a speedy recovery. Nobody likes a bike crash at this level. Of course, Julie Deron from Switzerland finishing off her season here in Santo Domingo, and Yuka Sato, another Japanese, down in 11th on that list. Romina Biaggioli had a good race here last year. Finished in 2nd. Quite a big field as well. Annette Bragmaier led them out of the water a couple of weeks ago. Is anybody that really catches your eye?
This Bragmaier is a great swimmer, runner. Lisa Petter will be interesting to watch. She's maybe one who can match Ai on the run, so that'd be a good battle. Just another couple of athletes that have pulled out of the race as well. Erika Ackerland is not racing the American, and neither is Sophie Chase. Again, a little bit of food poisoning around amongst 1 or 2 of the women athletes. Barbara Rivera down in 45th. The Chilean, and nice to see Andrea Hewitt racing again for the 2nd week running. We saw her last week, of course, racing for the first time on the ITU circuit this year. Hadn't raced since the grand final on the Gold Coast in 2018. Finished in 6th last week, so a considerable move up the rankings for her. She's 151 now on the ITU rankings. It'll be interesting to see how she fares here today. Yeah, both Andrea and Barbara had a really nice race, and probably expecting a little bit more of them this week and haven't blown the cobwebs, and had a good race, a freshener up before this one.
Lisa Berger wearing number 62, and just 1 or 2 more to bring up the rear. We've got a Dominican Republic athlete wearing 66, Camila Romero Taveras. Domika Jamnicki from Canada also on that list as well. But it really is a stunning part of the world. Some great stretch of coastline
and a very popular destination with the tourists here, the Dominican Republic.
Yeah, the swim venue looks absolutely fantastic with the beach start into some rolling waves and a nice clean swim before the first buoy. So they're in for a treat here, the girls.
So we will be getting underway very soon.
We talked about it earlier, but it's difficult to travel and to maintain a healthy body through a hectic schedule of traveling and racing. And unfortunately now a few of the athletes have gone down with food poisoning, which happens every once in a while, but it's always sad to see, and hopefully they're recovering quick and, you know, aren't too bad off, so to say.
You always have a golden rule when I go, I never have the fish.
Oh, really?
Just in case.
Normally salads are a no-no, cold salads.
Yeah.
You want to have cooked food and, you know, food you know aren't in a risk of having too many bacteria.
Yeah, of course. It is, as we say, a 5K run, but it is the same Olympic points that are up for grabs as if it were a full run. So no one's going to lose out in terms of any points towards their rankings as we finish the season here in the Caribbean.
And the reason why they shorten the run but not the swim and the bike is, you know, the heat factor is getting warmer and warmer throughout the day. So the most difficult time of the day is when you're hitting the run and you know, getting out for a 10K. So that's the danger for the athletes. That's where it's, you know, the red flag is turning into black flag. So it's a safety concern, they're shortening the run.
Well, talking of flags, here are our technical officials making their way out to the swim start. And our athletes will follow. So a big field, there were 65 on the list, so we've lost one or two this morning. I think it's 61 potentially now that we've got in the race, but still a big field. Still be pretty congested when they get towards that first swim buoy on the first of the 2 laps of 750 metres.
Taylor Nibb is another very interesting name here. Super strong biker. One of the few girls who can stay with Flora Duffy on the bike. She's an athlete of that caliber, is someone we haven't really seen in the past couple of races. So it'll be interesting to see what she can do to impact on the race. And she's the one maybe you can put, you know, give some difficulty to someone like Ayueda or Lisa Pertever, who is a slightly weaker swimmer, but amazing runners. If Taylor Nibb can play her cards right, she could actually change this race.
So the air temperature has increased by around about 3 degrees. I think it feels a little bit warmer than that on site. Water temperature still 26 degrees. There's Ayueda. Always has a smile on her face, even more so of late with those victories in Miyazaki and Lima, second in Tongyong. Looking for a 50th podium as well. And so, what's her 200th start in ITU races? You mentioned Taylor Nibb there. She hasn't actually had a podium this year, so her last podium individually was the Lausanne World Cup in 2018, so maybe something for her to prove in her final race of the season. So going through a little bit slowly at the moment. Julie Derren, they're from Switzerland. Elizabeth Bravo from Ecuador was third last week. Good podium finish for her in Peru.
Yeah, that's a nice confidence booster coming into this race.
Cecilia Perez from Mexico was fifth last week as well. Another Japanese, Yuka Sato. Not too much Asian representation in the race. Of course, they were predominantly in Tongyong and Miyazaki, but one or two have decided to make the journey from, well, they probably went west to east, actually, going from that part of the world. Petra Kurikova from the Czech Republic. There's Romina Biaggioli from Italy. So was second here last year. It was Elizabeth Bravo that took the goal in the Cam Tri American Cup event. Beatriz Neves from Brazil was third. So all three of those are in the race. But that was over the sprint distance. This over the full, well, say full Olympic distance, bar the run, of course, which we've had to change. There's Hiraki Fukuyoko from Japan. Sarah Village.
Haven't seen her race for a while.
No, 34th. The Tokyo Test event was her last.
Okay.
Her last race. Sarah Village. Second in Tisha Avaros. So too badly in that race. Hee-Yin Park from Korea.
She had a smashing transition in a race not long ago. It was Miyazaki maybe. She was out lengths ahead of everyone else.
Andy Kretz from Canada, in no great rush to get to the pontoon, or to the swim start rather.
It's always going to be a spot there for you.
Elena Danilova from Russia. Here's Annette Bragmaier. She could well be one of the leaders out of the water.
Great swimmer.
You can see everybody starting on the left-hand side of that blue carpet as you look at it.
I think the surface picked up a little bit. You have that swell coming in on the beach, which could be difficult if there's a wave crashing into the beach just as the start goes off. Then a few of the shorter girls might have a bit of a problem.
You just saw Beatriz Neres going through a moment or so ago, say third here in that Cam-Tri event last year. A couple more Mexicans, Claudia Rivas and Lizeth Rueda Santos. Disappointing for those, of course, who've picked up a bit of illness or injury. Having travelled all this way and then been unable to race must be particularly frustrating.
Yeah, it's very frustrating. You come here with the intention of, doing something great or picking up points, or you're here for a reason, and having food poisoning, no one wants food poisoning, right? But then also missing out on performing is a bad combination.
Caroline Roy from Canada. There's Barbara Riveros. Quinty Schoens from the Netherlands. And Andrea Hewitt just coming into view as well. 152nd start for her, very experienced, of course, opted out of the WTS series for 2019. Trained in Singapore in 30-degree heats a little earlier on this year, so that might help her in this particular event. Here are our last few.
So you can see they're looking right and left, and they come out towards the pontoon and they're checking where there still are slots. So the athlete ranked #1 in the race can pick whatever position she wants, and then you fill up accordingly to your ranking into the race. So if you're the last athlete on the pontoon, then you pick the last place that's left for you.
So it's 350 metres to the first swim buoy, a 50-metre cross between the buoys, and then 350 metres back to shore.
Keep an eye out for Kirsten Casper, #6, closest to the camera on the left-hand side here, just before. Great swimmer, great runner, and she's probably one of the ones who's going to lead out the swim and be first coming back on the beach.
I'm told the air temperature is actually 30.5 now rather than 26 that we saw a little earlier on, and the water temperature 26.7. So 30 degrees is a good heat, and getting hotter as well. It's
9:30-ish local
yeah,
time?
9:30 local time, yeah. So it's still early in the morning. So
straight into the swell.
They're underway.
So what's nice with the beach swim, or the beach starts like this, is that the field spreads out just a little bit more compared to if you have a pontoon start. So the feel when you're there is that it's more space. It's not so congested. And they go straight out to that first buoy. And normally what happens is you see spearheads forming out of the swim. So you have a couple of groups moving a little bit quicker, and just like birds in the sky, they form pyramid-shaped little spearheads, who tends to connect the closer to the first buoy they get.
Yeah, so very little. Well, there's not too much happens usually on the first lap of a 2-lap 750-metre swim, 1,500-metre swim rather. But we'll see who can get themselves ahead here.
It's quite a big difference with the sprint race and the Olympic distance race. A lot of athletes can swim really quick over 750, but then to keep it together, you need a lot of endurance and a good stroke, biomechanics, and probably like just a really good swim background. Because that second lap is where it hurts you a little bit, and that's where the gap not just opens up, but actually you can put time and distance into people. And you can see it's already quite spread out. You have a couple, like 3-4 girls having their spearheads. and they are probably going to connect into one group, and they getting closer to the first buoy here. It costs quite a lot of energy to lead out a swim. You need to be a lot better than the others to do that and feel comfortable and not too much under pressure. Preferable, you want to be on second or third person's feet, because it's way more relaxing. You don't have to do the sighting. You have a bit of advantage being on the feet, and you're still in a very good position in terms of where you are in the race. The guys from the boats here are pretty good views from the field.
Yeah.
That would be the best position to be in right now.
Boats are rocking around a bit as well. I don't think it's as... it was certainly quite rough for the men's race a little earlier on. Very early, the men started 7 a.m. local time.
Yeah, breakfast open at 3:30 a.m.
I'm sure the hotel staff were pleased about that.
They probably just kept the bar open from the night before and continued serving.
Yeah, there were probably still people going back home, I shouldn't wonder. So here they come towards that first buoy. It's in sight. They'll take a left turn, at the end, before swimming 50 metres and another 90-degree left back to shore.
That buoy wasn't standing up anymore when the boys gone past it. So they managed to get back up again. And there was a guy on the kayak who was fighting to keep it in position. Yeah, it's no one has taken that distinct lead yet. There's still 3 girls abreast, and I don't think the pace is that high because the group is still pretty large. Already in second and third row, they're 4 or 5 abreast.
So here they come up to that first turn.
The sighting can be a little bit tricky. It's not, massive waves, but you can see the girls are moving up and down. And when they're at the furthest down you can get, it's very difficult to see the buoys and where you're going. So you have to make sure you time your sightings when you put your head up to see where you're going, to when you are on top of one of these kind of slowly rolling waves.
Yeah, we saw a couple of the men lose their swim caps, didn't we?
Yeah,
which can often happen.
actually.
You can lose goggles if it's busy and everything. It's
losing goggles wouldn't be too nice here. My guess is the water would be pretty salty.
Yeah.
And it's difficult, if you're not used to swimming without goggles, it's very, very difficult to see, and it kind of stings in your eyes and it hurts a little bit.
That's a good shot. That shows you the width there. If you look at the width at the back of that sort of arrow, if you like, there's some swimming inside the buoys almost at the moment as well, and then some swimming right out wide into the ocean as well. They haven't come around in a sort of single file line at the moment.
Yeah, I think they're being pushed around a little bit here with the movement in the water. It makes it difficult to stay in the same position, and what's difficult to understand if you're not a swimmer and you've been doing a lot of ocean swims is from where you look, you're always going to kind of look straight at the buoy. So if the water moved you to the right or to the left, you still look straight at the buoy. So to get an understanding of where you're at, you probably have to look backwards as well to double check that you're on the line that you actually want to be. When you have a big wide open ocean behind you, you have nothing to sight from. But from the first to the second buoy, you can actually look behind you for 1 or 2 strokes to see that you're between the 2 buoys.
Well, you can see there is quite a considerable distance now from front to back. Unfortunately, we haven't got any live timing coming out of Santo Domingo, so we're seeing the same things that you are. We'll try and obviously work out who's who. A lot of distinctive suits. So having seen her over the last few weeks, I'm pretty certain Annette Bragmaier will be one of those that's leading out of the water. She's a very good duathlete, swimming being the strongest part of her discipline.
And we can already sense a gap there, maybe 15, 20 girls, and then there's a bit open space between that group and the next group. Normally that gap grows a little bit bigger now. They're going to come into the beach, they're going to run up on the beach and around the buoy and then back into the water again. It's really good for us because we can see some of the athletes, but it's quite hard for the athletes because you're going to stand up, you're going to get some blood to your legs, your heart rate spikes, and then you're going to go back into the water and trying to find your rhythm again.
Yeah, it's quite a short run to transition as well once they finish the second lap.
You can see now there's a group, then there's a gap, and then there's a small group of maybe 5 or 6 athletes, and then there's another group. You see quite different strokes there as well. You see some really straight arm, can be very, very effective in open water, and then you see some bent elbows and high cadence, low cadence. And that's quite interesting with triathletes, that you have a lot of different techniques, a lot of different backgrounds, but you're still swimming about the same speed and you're in the same position. Now that's the last buoy, the turn, and they heading straight towards the beach for the exit.
Yeah, so in just a few moments, we'll see who has started off the stronger. As you can see, we've got a couple of athletes at the front. It's almost single file at the moment.
Yeah, someone has really taken this out pretty quickly. The difference between the first time they got to that first buoy and now is just, you know, different world of pack forming.
Yeah, we'll see in a moment. I always used to like races with Carolina Routier because you pretty much knew she would always be at the front. You just look for that red Spanish swimsuit and you know that it's Carolina Routier that leading the way.
And if it wasn't Reuter, it's Learmont.
Yes.
One of the others. That's a difference with the World Cup races because they slightly different dynamics. You don't have, you know, the World Series, you see the same athletes week in, week out, and you know who's going to be towards the point end of the swim or the bike. The World Cup's a bit more unpredictable, and you can have athletes being younger or developing, but having a great swim and coming at first and beating, you know, all the foxes to it.
So they'll come out to the water, round those 2 flags and the fences, and then back into the water once again. Well, that is Bragmaier, I think.
Yeah.
Difficult to pick up the colours as well with the sunlight at the moment.
I think it's Barbara running off the beach now. That's a good swim for her again, just like last week. You can see the swell here close to the beach. There's actually a couple of wave catchers there. So if you manage to catch the wave, you get a few seconds for free. Just be aware of not swallowing too much water or losing your goggles in the process.
Yeah, big gap opening up. A long way between front and back at the moment.
It's congested here as well. There's a lot of girls in the same place.
So on to lap 2 of 2. So we are over the Olympic distance this week. Don't forget, for the final race of the season, there was a Camtry American Cup event we mentioned here last year, which was over the sprint distance. It was won by Elizabeth Bravo from Ecuador, who is in the field this week, as were the silver and bronze medal winners, Romina Biaggioli and Beatrice Neres.
So it'll be interesting to see where someone like Elizabeth Bravo is, where Ayueda is, where Petter is. Because these other girls, if they want to get ahead of them, they have to push the swim really hard and they have to make sure that second pack doesn't catch up. Someone like Bragmaier, Andrea Hewitt is not a bad swimmer. You have a couple of really strong girls here, and with the likes of Taylor Nibb, they might actually be able to do something really, really good on the bike.
Well, that's it. Of course, we talked earlier on about Ayueda's successes over the last few weeks. She's always come out of the water in contention, which has meant she's always been in that lead group on the bike. And then, of course, we know how strong her run is. That's what's really carried her through to those 2 victories and a second place.
Yeah, the other girls here, really their task today is to make sure I isn't in the group after the swim. They need to swim hard enough to make a difference there. Because someone with a running shape like the one I is in right now, you don't want her there for the start of the run.
Reminder of a couple of significant absentees from the race who were named on the starting list. Sandra Dode, who won in Tongyong a few weeks ago. Great run from her to see off the challengers, in particular Ayueda, who had to settle for second. She's got a bit of food poisoning. And Yulia Yelistratova, who had a bike crash yesterday, ended up having stitches in her knee and also some stitches in her mouth as well. She was the silver medal winner last week in Lima, of course, behind Ueda, so we wish her a speedy recovery.
And then it's Sophie Chase, who's also down with food poisoning.
Yeah, obviously disappointing Erika Ackerland, another American as well, not starting the race. But there are plenty of talented athletes out there that will be challenging for the medals. So almost back out to that far buoy again before they take that 90-degree left-hand turn. You can see one group now. So we've got three fairly distinct groups at the moment. Quite a large group at the front, a much smaller group in the middle there, and then the main bulk of the field in that little group behind. So be interesting to see when they come out of the water who has really led them on. We saw Annette Bragmaier was in that lead group coming out of the water. But who else is in there? Barbara Rivera, we saw, had a good swim as well.
Yeah, if someone like Taylor Nibb is up there in that, top 8 girls coming out of the water, I can't see that group is going to be caught. She's not one who's waiting around, and it's not if you have an athlete like that who's taking the command, and it's a bit like having Flora Duff in a race. The bike is going to be really hard, and if you get a couple of girls to help you and everyone commits to it, then you can, it's game over for the chasers already. If Taylor Nibb is further down in the swim, though, that changes the dynamic a lot. So if she's down and coming up with Ayueda and Elisa Petterer, then she's going to actually bring the runners back into the game again.
I think Yuka Sato might be in that group as well. She wasn't too far off the group as they came out of the water.
Kirsten Casper is probably in there as well.
Certainly think one of the Mexican athletes is in there as well. We've just seen some, just a few little still footages on social media. So we're just trying to, in the absence of timing, just trying to back up our information and keep you as informed as we can, really, as to who's doing what in the race. It's always difficult without the timing, though.
Yeah, the timing definitely helps.
Pretty much running blind at the moment.
Maybe a drone just hovering above the swimmer so you can pick up the suits and the colors and the names.
Yeah, I'm pretty certain the technology will soon be that the athletes, they have the timing chip, but it'll almost be like a mini GPS. So you can almost pinpoint a person and have an arrow come down and say, this is so-and-so, this is whoever. So technology evolving all the time in broadcast, of course. We've brought you some fantastic races this year via various means. We've streamed out of China, which was unheard of a couple of years ago.
Chengdu, first time ever.
Fantastic. True. Streaming events out of China.
So now this is an awesome picture here.
Yeah, the drone shots are great for giving you an appreciation of how big the gap is between front and the rest of the athletes in the group. That's a great shot. Annette Bragmaier, you can see.
So Bragmaier and is it Russian or Czech?
Yeah, it could be one of the Russians in the blue and white.
We have three fighting for position on their feet.
That's Barbara Rivera, I think, in the red, right in the middle,
quite
with the white at the top.
High stroke, high cadence. She's quite a small body, so she needs a high cadence. We see if you compare it to someone like Bragmaier, it's more like a lopey, slightly slower cadence.
Yeah, Ayueda's wearing a black suit with a sort of yellow and a bit of red on it as well. It almost looks like a German swimsuit from certain angles. So difficult to tell if we can see her in that group, but certainly she's one that we're keeping an eye on. Lisa Perterer is in the red of Austria. So there's one swimmer trying to bridge up to that group.
Ooh,
and that's got really straight out. I mean, we had 20-25 maybe in that first group.
Yeah. But wow, it's spread out.
It really is spread. One swimmer all on her own. Then maybe another 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And then a couple of stragglers have broken off the front of that large group behind. So here they come. They've got a couple more turns, one more left and then a right turn before they come out. And transition is literally just at the back of the swim start, so not too far to go.
Yeah, no, it's a super quick run into transition. It's almost like within a blink they're on the bikes and out on the bike course.
5 laps on the bike.
So So just like on the bike, if you're getting dropped from a pack, like the girl who was by herself, if you drop from a pack, it's probably because you find the pace is just a little bit too high. When you then drop off and you get exposed, and you actually have to do more work because you have to, you don't have anyone to draft off anymore. You have to take out everything you do in the swim, and it costs more energy and it's harder. So once someone drops off, that gap tends to open up more and more and more. So come around the last buoy, turn slightly to the right. We saw in the boys' race there was a little bit of waves. It's like a wave zone when you come back into the beach. If you're lucky and you time it right, you can get a bit of an advantage coming up on the beach.
Surf your way in.
And the first two girls have a little bit of a gap, actually. Just a slight gap.
Yeah, every little helps. So they'll go through under the orange arch and straight onto the blue carpet to grab the bikes for a 40-kilometre bike. It is just over 40 kilometres according to the race maps. 8.48 kilometres per lap, which is 42.4 kilometres. So it's Annette Bragmaier out of the water first. One of the Mexicans just going through in their distinctive
Kirsten Casper.
swimsuits.
Maybe fourth or fifth through, Kirsten Casper. And here's a big gap. Good transition for Bragmaier. Kirsten Casper is coming up towards the bike now. Australian out. Nibb is coming into a bike now, you can see her on the left side of the screen. She's going to make that pack just towards the end of it. So I wonder if we have Rivera or Lisa Perter in here.
And still they're coming out of the water. But off on the bike along España Avenue. We were telling you a little earlier on about a bit of the history. That's Annette Bragmaier, I think, in the Hungary colours. So we think there's about 20 that came out of the water pretty much together, although Bragmaier looks like she's gone off the front pretty quickly. You can just see the other athletes coming into view behind her.
She just had a brilliant transition. With that little gap she had and a brilliant transition, it blew up to like 10 seconds straight away.
So still trying to get the shoes. You can see it's quite a big group coming up behind. I'm sure they'll close up pretty soon. But they'll work together to try and form a bit of a lead and a bit of pace.
There's no point for her really to go by herself here. It's Olympic distance, it's 40Ks, it's warm. To be out there by yourself in the front is going to cost you a lot of energy. But she's smart. She took her time to adjust her shoes, make sure everything is tight and nice. She had a drink, putting on a sunnies, so using that bit of an extra time buffer to get herself set up and ready and comfortable for the upcoming bike.
Well, as we've said many times, you can't win a triathlon in the swim, but you can certainly lose it. So she'll be pleased with her position coming out of the water. She's certainly proving herself to be one of the top swimmers in the field. She won the Hungarian Sprint Duathlon Championships earlier on this year. Was 8th in the Doha Beach Games, which was a run, swim, run. Only finished 33rd in Lima last week and 19th in Tongyong. So she'll be looking to try and convert some of those swims into good positions. So Kirsten Casper is among the lead group as well. So Bragmaier out of the water first. Around about 20, we think, in that group, just behind her.
So she's smart to Bragmaier, so she's keeping the pace fairly solid here, which forces the bunch to work to catch her, which early sets a nice pace and rhythm, so it doesn't, the pace doesn't subside or because she wants that group to keep on moving, because I think they have quite a few runners in the group that's now with a big gap behind them. And if you're not the best runner, you always want to have that gap as big as you possibly can.
So they're all in a line at the moment. We were chatting earlier and at the start of the men's race. We saw one race recently, didn't we? They just kept overtaking each other and everybody taking literally just a second or so in the lead, and it worked really well to build up a head of steam. Nobody taking a minute or so at the front, and that's how these athletes can work together to build up a lead and try and get themselves a little bit of a break from a potentially large group behind them. It's quite narrow in places, this bike course as well, so if you can get yourself into a smaller group around some of the tighter turns, we've got 180s at each end of the course, and then a fairly technical section that comes back towards transition along that harbour wall, which is quite narrow.
I think this is Taylor Nibb we see at the front here. She decided to move this pack forward. Just before she was sitting on the back and, you know, getting her shoes right and adjusting stuff, and then she moved to the side and just moved the whole way up towards the front of the group and took command of the group.
Yeah, she was fourth in Lausanne, Taylor Nibb. I think I said that she'd last raced in the Tokyo test event. I think Lausanne was after Tokyo, so that would have been her last race. It's not been the best of years for her. 16 Bagnolas. Sorry.
So look here. She's actually split the group now. And if she keeps on going like that, they might... I wonder if they were just not paying attention at the back, but there was a distinct split and a bit of confusion. But now they tighten up that.
It was great as a junior. Of course, Taylor Nibb won the under junior women's final in Rotterdam 2 years ago.
And I think she soloed that on the bike, if I remember right.
Maybe that bodes well for her in this race then.
Speaks a bit about her capacity on the bike. I remember watching her in Montreal a bunch of years back, where she surprised everyone with being the only one who could go with Flora Duffy.
That's no mean feat.
No, that's a good day's job. To see if you're at the back of the pack here, you really have to slow down at the U-turns. And then you have to accelerate quite hard to get it back into the group again. So it's always good to be near the front when you have U-turns and technical sections. Talk about a rubber band in cycling.
Yep.
The further back you sit, the more of the rubber band or the slingshot you get. You can see here the pace is high. There are actually little gaps opening up every once in a while. And the groups are more like, you know, smaller groups within the group. I think there's going to be a few girls being dropped from this group.
Yeah, you can already see one or two, and you can also see the other sort of smaller pockets coming the other way. Yep. The race has fragmented quite a lot over the first lap of the bike.
So someone like, oh, you see here, now they got a gap. So now they reduce the size of the front gap a little bit. So this is what happens when you have someone you have a few athletes who can change the way the race is run. And Taylor Nibb is one of them who's so strong on the bike, he can actually change the dynamics of the race. Nicholas Bjerg is one of them, Flora Duffy is one of them, Jess Learmont is one of them. So you have one athlete who, within one of the disciplines, has a bit extra to what, you know, most of the other girls have. But she now needs to get the other girls to work with her, of course, because you can't continue to do everything by herself, which she hasn't, you know, she doesn't need to do here.
Well, certainly, I think it's Taylor Nibb that's controlling operations at the moment in terms of the bike. Just see a couple have broken away there as well, and just helping just to lift the pace that little bit more. They'll want to put as much distance as they can between those behind them, and as the race wears on, the heat will take its toll, of course. You can see how that gap's opened up already from the one or two that were dropped off the, well, around about 20, we think, in that lead group as they came out of the water. Well, certainly out of T1. I'm sure the athletes enjoying being here in Santo Domingo, the gateway to the Caribbean.
A nice way to finish off the season. Surely some nice hotels, and they can enjoy the food tonight. Burgers or whatever you have when you finish off the year.
So to keep off the fish with the food poisoning, I would if I were you. I've just had a note, actually, Taylor Nibb's going to have a penalty for equipment outside the box in T1. So I'm sure will be aware of that, which might be the thinking in having to make up that penalty. So a basic error from Taylor Nibb has cost her a few second penalty.
Yeah, that's not what you want to see. So there's a penalty board. We have you look up at the penalty board and you want to see nothing, right? If you see a number and like, oh, isn't that my number? And you realize it's your number, you're in big problems. Hopefully she has a coach, which she probably has coming from the US. You can tell her that she's got a penalty. If you don't take a penalty, it's disqualification. So it's very important that you do stop and take that penalty.
Yeah, the penalty box, usually as they approach transition. I'm not too sure where the penalty box is actually on the course.
No, it's normally before the transition area, just before.
Yeah.
And you can choose when you want to take it, as long as you take it.
Yep.
In the transition area, every athlete has a little box next to the bike, and all the equipment has to go in the box. So you're after the swim, you would have your swim cap, you have your goggles. Everything has to go down into the box. So if your goggles are, you kind of threw them to the box and they jumped out, that's, I think it's a 30-second penalty in the Olympic distance race.
So we'll see when Taylor Nibb decides to serve that penalty.
It's not going to be served on the bike, so you're not going to see her stop on the bike. It's going to be served on the run course. And I think everyone now realized that the pace is going to be quite high, and you can see they are a bit more careful with not leaving gaps or not riding close enough to whoever's in front of you. Because you can't afford to be a bit lazy and not pay attention, and then there's a gap opening up. If the pace is high, you have to make sure you're there every single second.
So they're coming towards the end of lap one. A couple more turns before they head back to the transition zone across the blue carpet.
It's a Barbara here, taking a turn in the front. So making sure the pace is high and showing her intent to making it, a solid bike. Maybe want to see if Taylor or anyone wants to go with her. It's really smart to do that through the turning and the slightly technical section through the transition area.
Yeah, so they'll take a left turn for them, round onto the blue carpet, and then off onto lap 2 of 5. So no change in the distance to the bike, despite the fact we've had the run slightly shortened.
So I didn't see any eye in this group, did you?
I haven't seen her at all as yet, so we'll try and find out. We've actually got people on the ground watching these guys go through visually, so they might have a better idea of us where certain people are. I was thinking actually it must be great. Some of the main roads here are named after really famous political figures. It must be really good to have a sat-nav, because you've got things like the Espresso John F. Kennedy, Avenida George Washington, Avenida Winston Churchill, and Avenida Abraham Lincoln.
Oh, wow.
So I imagine, take a left into Espresso John F. Kennedy and take a right into Winston Churchill. I think it sounds fantastic. I must go to Santo Domingo and drive around and see if that's what happens. But great parts of the world. So the temperature, perfect conditions, not a cloud in the sky, just a few little fluffy bits of white cloud, but a great location for the final race of the ITU World Cup season. And along that long España Avenue, great views of the Caribbean.
I'm sure the ocean is going to look very tempting to them once they hit the run. And if you're a spectator, you probably want to watch it from the beach. So the chase group is 1 minute and 5 seconds behind.
There's 1 or 2 more being dropped off the back of this group as well, by the look of it. So this is getting really strung out now, as you can see. Ayueda's 1:38 behind at the moment, apparently. So if she wants to make it another win to end the season, then she's got work to do.
And this is what everyone knows in this group. You have Barbara, you have, I think I saw Andrea Hewitt in there, you have Taylor Nibb, you have girls knowing they put a big distance into the girl behind them. And someone like you know, if you give her 2.5 minutes or 2 minutes, is she going to catch them? Probably not. Like, she has to run so much quicker. So it's a big incentive for everyone here to put their heads down and work together and continue pushing that pace, building that gap.
So Ayueda is in that chase group that's over 1.5 minutes down at the moment. Barbara Rivera, as we saw, is in the lead group.
The only danger with someone, you know, when you have someone as strong as Taylor, who's probably going to take a really, really strong turn, is everyone is going to hurt a little bit from that turn. And then there's going to be hesitation for who's going to go to the front now, who's going to take over that amount of work. Barbara is probably one of the few who can do it. But if she doesn't break away, she might actually kill the legs that are staying with her. And she's going to be struggling to get someone to help her. I think it's Kirsten Casper just on a wheel here. She's in a very good position now to have a great race. So Kirsten, Barbara. And I think this group is going to be reduced. After every lap, you're going to lose a couple of girls.
And that's looks like the diminutive figure of Barbara Riveros.
You wouldn't have too much draft behind her.
15th last week in Lima. Just over 100 races now on the ITU circuit. Still hoping to qualify for the Olympics. Another who's stepping up to race 70.3 and Ironman distances as well, Barbara Riveros. Encouraged to take up triathlon by her dad many years ago.
Her brother raced in the men's race, Gaspar Riveros.
Yes.
And she trains a lot in Australia, Barbara. She's spending a lot of winters in Wollongong. Trained with Jamie Turner before. Now she's with Brett Sutton, I think, still. And Taylor keeps on drilling the group. I think she wants someone else to take over the work. Come on, girls.
Yep. Come and have a go at the front. So I think, I'm not too sure, it's difficult to tell again how many we've got in that group. I'm reckoning about 14 or 15, I think.
Yeah, I think you're
group.
right. Yep.
I think we dropped about 5 off the back over the last lap or so. But it's quite a good pace at the moment, so I wonder whether 1 or 2 more might fall foul. Let's say temperature is 30 degrees plus now.
So your core temperature, from when you start in the water, the core temperature is going to rise. On the bike, you get a bit of a wind chill, and you can also drink quite freely. So the core temperature would stabilize and it wouldn't, continue increasing so much. But once you hit the running, that's when the core temperature is going to continue climbing and eventually go through the roof if you are really careful and need to nail the pacing and get everything right in terms of hydration, pacing. The Americans were talking a lot about saving themselves. The whole race was about saving themselves, which is a very, very smart tactic when it's hot and humid like it is here.
So there's that chase group. Good minute down, and well, minute plus at the moment as they approach the 180-degree turn at the furthest part of the course. It's back along the España Avenue.
It wouldn't be so encouraging when you meet the front group and you can see they're all tucked into our position and in a long line like this, meaning the pace is really, really high. So if they're going to catch them, they really need to pull themselves together and get that work going in the group.
Another little pocket of athletes just went through on the other side of the road, about another 30 seconds down. So they're probably about 2 minutes behind our leaders at the moment, the second chase group.
and they would know they have some of the best runners in that group behind them. So they know every second they gain, it's going to be, you know, a nice advantage heading out in the run. So now she's getting some help here, Taylor. But you see, she doesn't back down the whole pack. She doesn't want to be on the back. She wants to make sure there's people coming through, people working, and then she slots back in again after maybe 5 or 6 athletes. So it's a great tactic. You put your head down, you work really hard for a lap and a bit, and you start, you get people motivated, you get people start working. And once you have that work established, then it runs like a clockwork, it runs by itself. So then now Taylor can ease back a little bit and be a part of that movement where you go through and you take a turn.
Well, I think she's got teammate Kirsten Casper in that front group as well. So we saw American dominance in the men's race a little earlier on. So can the USA athletes work together here to try and forge a little bit of a breakaway from this group? Certainly no one else seems really to show any interest in taking a turn at the front.
Well, obviously Barbara, I think we have Andrea Hewitt on the front. I think I've seen Kirsten Casper on the front as well. But there's definitely like 5 or 6 of them going through, taking turns, and then there's a bunch of with a free train ride sitting behind them. And it's, some of these athletes probably, the pace is so high, they can't go to the front and take a turn. And other athletes are, okay, I'm being tactical, it's really hot, it's really humid, I know I'm going to suffer in the run if I work too hard, so I'm going to save myself. The pace is up anyways, and we have a big gap towards the second chase pack, so I'm not too worried about them.
Yeah, just to remind you, it will be a 5-kilometre run once they finish the bike. Due to the heat conditions, the run halved. It was a 10-kilometre race for the men, but the run went off at 7 a.m. local time. But you could see at the end of that race, 1 or 2 of them feeling it with the heat really kicking in as it approached 30 degrees. So,
yeah, I think you saw a lot of them like really struggling coming through the finishing chute. And once they were over the finish line, the legs were just like folding and they were falling all over the place.
So that swimming pool is where they take the turn. So they're coming round into a little bit of a technical section now. There's another 180-degree turn before they head back. And the completion of lap 2. Of course, we talked to the men's race about the top 3 this year in the ITU rankings. Katie Zafiras, another American. We're talking Taylor Nibb and Kirsten Casper here, but what a year it's been for Katie Zafiras, and a couple of great British athletes making the top 3 as well. Jessica Learmonth and Georgia Taylor-Brown finishing 2nd and 3rd on the ITU rankings for the year. Really good years for them. Don't forget the new season starts in February in Cape Town with the first World Cup race of the year. Abu Dhabi gets the WTS season underway in March. This round 17 of the ITU World Cup season.
There's someone pushing the pace here. Wonder if it's Barbara again. Yep, it's Barbara.
Good pace at the moment from Riveros.
She's very skilled on the bike, super technical athlete. You see how low she gets in the corners, and she really like works with that bike. I think from the overview just before in the other shot, you could see 2 girls just off the back of this pack, so had fallen off on the last section up to the U-turn.
How are the bikes continuing to evolve these days? Obviously, we know they're all carbon fiber these days, but is bike technology continuing to develop? We talked about running shoes and carbon soles and that kind of thing. What's the latest thing with bikes that's making them go that little bit faster?
Well, I think the last major change was the move to disc brakes for some bikes. So now you probably have 50-50 in the pack with who's riding rim brakes and who's riding disc brakes. I really prefer the disc brakes because you get so much better, braking field, and they work if it's wet or if it's dry. Or you have the electronic gears, electronic shifting. It's been in the, it's probably been there for a bunch of years now. Some would still ride mechanic gears, and some would ride the electronic ones. But it's not like there's no major changes. I think the bikes have, as much as you can change, and within the UCI's set of rules, there's only so much you can do that you're allowed to do. Looking at Ironman or non-UCI legal bikes, then you can do a lot more fun stuff with the bikes, and you can actually push the boundaries a little bit more. The ITU is under the UCI rules, so we stick to the same rules as the UCI has, and there's like minor changes now to make the bikes better.
So the chase group are 1 minute and 11 seconds down now, so they've made up a little bit of a gap.
Well, I think the main chase group was 1:05 before.
Yeah, Ayueda was 1:30,
yep.
wasn't she? Sorry, yeah. So, yeah, they've lost a little bit more.
Which doesn't surprise me, seeing how well these girls are working together right now. But then there's other things in the equipment, like bike shoes, triathlon shoes. How do you make a shoe that works for transitions, that you can get in and out of as quick as possible?
Yep.
So it's been different magnetic solutions. The BOA came in, so you have BOA on some of the running shoes, on some of the bike shoes. Little magnetic, what do you call them? Like you close the straps with on the bike, so you have like a much quicker closing and opening function. And there's like little tweaks all the time to make the equipment work better for us as being triathletes.
Well, Ayueda is over 2 minutes back now in a group of athletes that have fallen behind. So, barring, any major comeback, it looks as though her run is going to come to an end. There's Wu, one of the Chinese athletes at the back of that group.
I wonder if that was Petra just in front of Wu. If it is, then she's in a good position. I think this is the kind of racing that goes down right in the alley of Barbara Rivera and Andrea Hewitt, athletes who are used to the WTS circuit, and the bike, like the swim, bike and run, being super hard all the way through. Sometimes at the World Cups, like the last couple of races we've seen, the bike has been just a little bit, easier. The pace hasn't been that high. Today the pace is, being pushed all the time, and there's like girls falling off, which means, everyone is working hard and just struggling to stay in the pack. And for someone like with so much routine as both Barbara and Andrea, it's perfect scenario.
Well, they're continuing to try and push the pace. We're on lap 3 of 5, so they'll reach the halfway point during this lap.
Flipper from Mexico. Vu, and then you have 2 Czech athletes. So probably Petra Kurikova. Being one of them.
Ferislova is another Czech athlete in the field, as is Zimovyanova. So certainly 2 of those 3 are within that group.
Barbara taking a big responsibility in this group.
Yeah, she was dominant for a number of years. We used to see her challenging on the WTS races, Barbara Riveros.
I think Sydney was the first one she won. Do you have that in your papers? 2011?
Well, 15 wins in 101 starts prior to this for Barbara Rivera, so she's obviously been tremendously successful over the years.
She was one of the steady ranked #1 athletes there for a while. She was also an ambassador at the Youth Olympics 2 years ago. In the sport for a long time as well, many years now.
2010, she won what was the Dextro Energy Triathlon. Back then,
I think I was 5th in that race. But what I remember was celebrating her win in that race. It's just incredible to be there, and to see someone to take that last step to, the first place on the podium is fantastic.
won the World Cup in Ishigaki the following year as well. Barbara Rivera. Last win came in the South American Games in Cochabamba last May, over the sprint distance.
She normally races the half Ironman race in Chile as well, which is kind of her home half Ironman race, which I think she's been dominating in the past years. It's her race to win.
Well, she also came second 2016, the 2016 Snowy Mountains ITU Cross Triathlon World Championships, worlds away from where we are today in Santo Domingo.
So very, very versatile.
Absolutely.
And she's an athlete. If you really want to hear the truth and nothing else, you ask Barbara. She will tell you to your face.
Best way to be. Well, she's nicely placed at the moment, Barbara Rivera. It's Andrea Hewitt at the front now. Interesting to see where her career takes her. We told you last week when she raced in Lima that she'd had her funding withdrawn because she decided to opt out of the WTS series. She's racing a lot at home at the moment. She decided that she didn't really want to travel, wanted to stay at home in Christchurch.
I think when you're older and more experienced athlete, you don't need to race as much. You know what you need to do in training. You know the level that you need to have. Obviously, you still need to keep a ranking high enough as you can get on the start list that you want to get on, and that your ranking allows you to qualify to the Olympic Games. But you don't need to race to gain experience or race fitness or anything like that. So obviously now she wants to get out there and have a feel for where she's at, which is probably smart to before next year.
We're doing quite a lot of moving across the road at the moment, trying to invite another group through, I think, just give them a little bit of space on probably the widest part of the course. So they're heading back towards the conclusion of lap 3 and onto the penultimate lap.
But we're getting some nice info from the coaches. They increasing the gap. It's probably quite a nice positive vibe in this group right now. I wonder how much time they feel like they need to have on someone like I. Are they happy with 2 minutes? Do they want it to be 3 minutes? It's only 5Ks. It's not 10Ks anymore. It's only 5Ks. So for someone like I, shortening the distance of this run is probably not to her advantage, because she would now, being in the second group, want more time to make an indent on the run.
Well, we'll see when they come back through transition again, the gaps from this group to our chase group to a potential second chase group with any challenges in, but they won't want to be falling too far behind.
And I wonder too, like we were talking about in the men's race, is Taylor happy to be in the pack, or would she want to say Barbara with her and do a little breakaway? Or is she happy to carry and drag along, a bunch of girls on the whole bike course? Maybe it's tactical to sit back, have a couple of drinks, get a free ride for a minute or two, and then make actually a full attack to try to go solo, or bring maybe 2 other girls with you.
So that's our lead group heading back now towards the transition zone. It's Hewitt still at the front, Riveros in the red behind her.
That beach looks inviting.
Certainly does. So here they come. So it's a left turn for them across the blue carpet.
There's a Japanese athlete in the front, right?
No, I think it's Hewitt at the front. You saw the... yes, and it's definitely Hewitt with Riveros just behind.
Well, they're working hard at the back here.
So we'll see what the gap is back to the chasers now as they go through once again. So now the long stretch out along the España Avenue, all the way to the furthest part of the course before they take that 180.
Oh, is it a crash?
Someone's
Someone
come off, I think.
definitely
Yes,
crashed.
someone came off there, I think. Well, here come the chase group. And certainly, I think someone has
I wonder if we can get a replay from that one.
lost the way on the bike.
Goes through the mid part of the pack.
It'll be difficult for us to identify who it was. Hopefully, we've got people dotted around the course that might be able to give us an update.
So Taylor's still there. I can see Barbara's still there.
So 118 back to the chase group. So again, they've lost a little bit more ground. It's gone from 105 to 111 to 118. So they're losing about 6 or 7 seconds a lap at the moment, which is not significant really, but it is as it tots up over the next race. That, you know, they could well be down or could be well down rather, when they come back to T2.
And the last lap is kind of funny. You can lose much more time on the last lap because people are, you know, giving up a little bit or looking down, trying to drink a bit more, and you kind of settle. And when you settle, you can lose, you know, a few more seconds that we've done before. You also want to save your legs a little bit more before the run and just want to, you know, maybe shake out or something. It was a weird-looking crash, though. It was like from not a corner or anything technical.
Yeah, it was well spotted because it was right at the back of the pack. And I'm sure it was only one person as well. I don't think any more than one person.
No, the others did well to kind of get around safely.
I suppose when you're travelling at speed, you're trying to grab a water bottle, you do have to have that glance down and say just one slight wobble.
And you can see they're like moving right and left the whole time. You know, someone is moving to the left, trying to make someone else go to the front, and the whole pack is following. So there's quite a lot of movement in the pack sideways, and not only from the back towards the front.
So we think it was Yuri Kato from Japan who went out on the bike. So it looks like it was a mechanical issue that caused the crash rather than anything else. So maybe a chain getting stuck or jammed or something. But certainly, from what we're getting from our technical officials over the radio, Yuri Kato, sorry, is out of the race. Let's hope that there's no injuries to her. So we saw that bike crash from Yulia Yelistratova in the build-up to the race that led her having stitches in her mouth and her knee. So not pleasant bike crashes. We often see athletes with skin taken off the shoulders.
Yeah, if you follow professional cyclists on social media or through races, or you see these crashes. Every single race you have a handful of athletes crashing out and coming back with bandaged elbows and thighs and knees. And so cycling is quite a rough sport.
Yeah.
If you come down hard, and the asphalt is a hard place to come down on. But they say, a proper cyclist until you're, crashed and probably broken a collarbone. When you're breaking a collarbone, that's when you're a proper cyclist.
That's nice to know.
I'm yet to be a cyclist. I haven't broken any collarbones yet.
Yeah, I wouldn't wish that on anybody, to be fair. So Andrea Hewitt finished in 6th place last week in Peru. She's nice, more in a better position, I think, on the bike than she was last week. So we know she's got the run legs. So I just wonder whether this might be her time to get back onto a podium in a World Cup race.
There's a lot of girls we haven't seen at the front in this race. They've been in that, the front pack, but they haven't really taken the turn. And they could be interesting for the run.
Yeah, one or two, I think, tactically staying in touch without exerting too much energy at the front, which won't do much to please their fellow athletes.
Coming back from the U-turn. Taylor Nibb on the front.
So it could be a big race for Taylor Nibb. The last time, as we said, she made an individual podium was 2018 in the Lausanne World Cup when she won it.
That's a course that would suit her perfect as well, being a hilly, very tough bike course.
She's enjoying the flat of Santo Domingo at the moment. Nibb, Hewitt, Riveros are all still nicely placed. They'll take the bell when they come back through transition for the final time on the bike. And then just a 5-kilometre run, don't forget, just 2 laps on the run due to the heat.
Yeah, they would start to feel it now. They've been out and about for quite a long time. I saw a couple of girls had cooling vests on them before the start, trying to keep the body temperature down before you start to warm up and before you're, once you start racing, your core temperature will continue racing, but you want to keep your temperature down for as long as you possibly can. And they've been going now for a good hour, so now it's time to look down in your bottles and hopefully see 2 almost empty bottles. You look down and you see a full one, you're in trouble. I had a couple of races where I looked down or wanting to have a drink after, with 1 lap to go and it's empty, there's nothing left. Then you also know you're in trouble.
Yep. That's all about the intake management, of course, as we've said many times. A lot of these girls have it down to a fine art.
It's funny, though, how racing can... That's where it comes to real experience and race smartness, because you can be having the perfect plan, you know exactly what you need to do, and yet you get into a race and you kind of forget about it, or you have some weird reasoning with yourself. I'm just going to wait until the next lap before I drink, or I wait until after the next corner, and suddenly it's gone 2 laps and I haven't had a drink. So there's a lot of being able to execute that brilliant plan you have before the race starts.
Barbara Riveros back at the front once again. So this group have stayed together pretty much the whole ride so far.
Yeah, they lost maybe 2 or 3 names from when they started. One due to a crash and a few stragglers that couldn't really stay with the high pace these girls have set out for.
Nina Kishimoto is also part of that lead group as well. I think she's also got a black bathing suit on as well, so she's taken a turn up the front a couple of times, I'm pretty certain.
Japanese have a strong team now. They really got a lot of girls coming through being steady performers on the World Cup circuit. Sure, they're appreciating the shady parts of the course there, getting under the trees.
Yeah, of course, we've talked a lot about Ayueda over the last few weeks. She's not the top-ranked Japanese athlete. Yuko Takahashi is a couple of places above her in the rankings at the moment. But then there's a bit of a gap from those two. You have to go right down outside the top 50 to find the next Japanese athlete. That's Yuka Sato, who's 54th. There's Kato from Japan, just tucked in there. Wu from China has stayed with them quite nicely on the bike.
It's your Idu as well in the middle.
Yep. So here they come to take the belt. One more lap to go. 8.33 kilometers. Sorry, 8.48 kilometers before we go off on the 5-kilometer run. No reduction in the Olympic points, don't forget, for the slightly shorter distance on the run.
Nice little bump they have before the corner.
Yeah.
Once again, Barbara coming through transition in the lead. And they get the bell. So with all the U-turns, they would know exactly where the chasers are, and they would see that gap opening up more and more. I think now it's more a matter of keeping the pace nice and high, but not really doing anything spectacular.
Yeah, so we await our chase group. We'll get a time for you. Reminder that that gap back to the chasers increased by between 6 and 7 seconds on each lap so far. They were 1:18 down the last time they came through. There's Barbara just pulling out and allowing athletes to go up the inside. That's Taylor Nibb from USA. But there are some strong runners in there. So that will be our chasers going through. We'll get a time on that in just a sec. And you still see other athletes going in the opposite direction, back towards the transition zone. So we've got lots of different pockets of athletes on course at the moment. These are our leaders.
And now they're letting everyone back in the game and, trying to get everyone to rotate. The danger here now is if they letting up the pace a little bit and giving back seconds to the chase group. But as Taylor's coming back to the front, it's not their intent really. So with a gel, getting ready with a gel in the mouth. So 1 lap to go. So normally when you take on a bit of, you're trying to get some extra sugar. Most athletes will have 1 or 2 gels on the frames when they start, just glued to the top of the frame. And you would have 2 bottles. For a race like this, you definitely need 2 bottles.
That's Andrea Hewitt.
I think it's a Japanese still.
Oh, it is actually. Yeah, I keep thinking that white at the top is
No,
the fern, the New Zealand fern, but it's actually not. You're
No,
right.
it's I think it's the ASICS logo.
So apologies to any Japanese followers that are watching at the moment. Don't just assume. We know Nina Kishimoto's in there. 17, I think that is. They've also got number 11 as well, Yuka Sato. So not too sure where she's in the field at the moment, but certainly Barbara Riveros is there in the red. We know that Andrea Hewitt is in that group somewhere.
Yeah, she's got a similar bathing suit to the Japanese team, black with a bit of white on.
Yeah, we know that Taylor Nibb from the USA is in there. So this is out onto the long stretch along España Avenue. One more 180 at the end before they head back, and it'll be the final stages back into transition.
It's very difficult to pick out even the suit colors with the image. I'm trying to pick out athletes. I think there was an Australian suit in there.
Certainly someone in green. Anyway, you can make out that it's green. Kishimoto, by the way, 13th in Lima last week. She was 9th in Miyazaki. So reasonably strong performances towards the end of the season. Won the Takamatsu Sprint Asian Cup earlier on in the year. That's Taylor Nibb out the front, number 3.
Yeah, they're all staying down nice and aero on the tri-bars. The tri-bars have been coming and going on the circuit, actually. There was a while when no one raced with tri-bars. And then Flora Duffy turned up and everyone put the tri-bars back on.
If Flora Duffy does it, you've got to follow Flora. There is no better exponent of a bike leg than Flora Duffy.
So in triathlon, you're allowed to have tri-bars, short ones. They have to be connected at the front. They can't go past your levers on the brake levers. So they're not the ones you see on proper time trial bikes where they extend quite a bit in front of the handlebars.
Well, the chase group are still over a minute down when they came through transition for the last time.
A minute on 5Ks, that's quite substantial. You have to run a lot quicker to run in that amount of time.
So out to the furthest part of the course. Now they'll head back towards transition. So still a few more twists and turns to go before they can dismount and head off on the 5K run.
Kirsten Casper, I think, second here.
Yeah, Kishimoto there from Japan just tucked in. Got it right that time.
Sophie Lynn from Australia in the green suit, 43.
Yeah, came here on the back of a win. Sophie Lynn won the Osaka Castle Sprint Asian Cup a few weeks ago, back on the 22nd of September, actually. Sophie Lynn won in Murakami the week before as well. So coming here in good form. Well down the list in terms of her ranking, but another strong performance here to finish the year would be just the job.
So you've probably seen about half the group taking turns and half the group sitting on the back. There's a Mexican athlete just coming through taking a turn. And so Bragmaier in the middle there in the dark red suit. It's actually the two leaders out of the water, I think, at the back of the pack here. Bragmaier and the Russian girl.
Yeah, Bragmaier was first out of the water after the 1500-meter swim.
So I think this is Andrea, second wheel with a black helmet, yellow shoes.
Yep, looks like.
And you can hear the bell from another group coming to position now. They're pouring water of themselves, trying to find a way to cool down a little bit, getting ready for the run. It's a 5K run, short and sharp.
Yeah, normally part of the sprint distance racing, of course, the 5 kilometre run, but due to the heat, if you've just joined us, the race has been halved because of the heat index.
I know it's probably shouldn't say this, but it's it's not the most popular decision with the athletes. I know everyone, most athletes wants to have a full race. They want to have a 10K run at the end of it, because it's quite a big difference when you're racing if it's a 5K or 10K. And then for someone like this is actually not ideal, because she will get a full distance swim, a full distance bike, but only a half distance run, running where she excels and where she can make a big difference. But that's how it is, and it's due to safety concerns for the athletes, and everyone before the race knows what's going to happen and has to adapt to that. That's the life as an athlete. You adapt to what you're giving, and you race under the circumstances that you have. Some athletes would have the isolated bottles, so your water would keep a little bit cooler. Put some ice in it, and when you have like the double wall bottles, just like a thermo flask, you just keep the water warm in winter. It keeps it cooler during the summer.
The colder the better, I think, in this weather. There's Ana Maria Godoy from Spain. We haven't mentioned her, out on the back in the red as well. It's one of the Russians in there too. Yeah, it's worth remembering. I've just been reminded that Taylor Nibb has a penalty still to serve on the run. So too does Marian Kim Mangrabang from the Philippines. Not too sure where she's in the field, but she has a penalty to serve.
I wonder if Taylor knows about it, or if she's going to find out and be told about it once she goes on the run course. Otherwise, it almost be worthwhile just trying to break away, get a few extra seconds. And once you're standing in the penalty tent, you have a bit of a breather and you can relax a little bit, and then starting the run a little bit fresher.
You remember going back to those London 2012 Olympics, I think in the men's race, didn't Johnny Brownie get a 15-second penalty and just ran his legs off to make up 15 seconds and still managed to take the bronze medal? It was a fantastic effort to make up that time.
There was actually, when the rule first came into the circuits, I raced before the strict rules were there about the littering and the boxes in transition. And when they brought in the rules, everyone got penalties. So it was actually a tactical race when you're going to take a penalty. So athletes were sprinting to take the penalty and then get back in the group, and someone saved it till later. And Andrea off the bike first, Kirsten Casper second, Sophie Lynn, right, third?
Yep, Sophie Lynn, nicely placed.
Barbara well in contention.
So 5 kilometers to come.
Who's going to have the running legs? Is it Kirsten Casper's day to finish the year on a high?
Casper just on the left nearest the camera, just racking a bike at the moment, but Hewitt is already out. Very good transition from Andrea Hewitt. Sato from Japan just going through. There's Barbara Riveros. Bragmaier still nicely in touch after an excellent swim. Another couple of Mexicans in there as well. So just 2 laps on the run. Lovely day here. Be quite nice now just to finish work, get the interviews out the way, and go and sit on the beach with something chilled, with maybe an umbrella in it or something.
I'd give my left hand, I think, for the change right now.
Oh dear.
Here's the chasers. So they lost quite a bit of time here. It's going to be very, very difficult for any of these girls to run themselves on the podium. Impossible, almost, I would say.
Yeah, the pace in that lead group was good. Obviously, they had the visuals, so they weren't racing completely blind. There's
Deron and Pitterer.
Ide
first.
right at the front. That's a big group.
So I is not
Ayueda,
even...
is it right in the middle there? With a yellow back to the bathing suit? I think that's Ayueda.
Is it? Yeah.
Certainly got that yellow on it we mentioned earlier on, so she's well down. Not had a good a day as she's had over the last few weeks, Ayueda, but who can complain really about her end to the season? And the season as a whole, 4 wins, absolutely fantastic.
Godoy taking out the front here.
So, of course, we're keeping an eye on Taylor Nibb. We thought she might be one of the favourites for this if she got out on the run, but as we mentioned, she has that penalty to serve.
Yeah, that's going to take her out. She would need to be quite a lot quicker runner to afford to have that penalty. So again, with a shorter run, the pacing is not, as important as for the men's race for a 10K, but still, like, if you go out too hard, it can be very, very costly for the later parts of the race. So like Andrea here is very, very experienced for hot races, and I think she knows exactly where her limit is at and how hard she can go out. And I think we're going to see her and maybe Barbara kind of move up to the field towards 2 or 3Ks.
Well, Anna Godoy's best World Cup performance this year was a 5th place in Calgary and a 5th in Madrid.
So both really hard bike courses. And I think the bike here has been solid today. Kirsten Casper.
Casper's been...
Kato coming through here.
Yeah, Casper's been doing triathlon for some 5 years now. 11th in the world in 2014.
She had some brilliant races back, even 16th, right? 17? And here's I. This is I's group.
Oh, it is, yeah, you're right.
So remember, she was in a group behind the chasers,
Ayueda,
and they lost even more time. So it's going to be a difficult day for her here today. Unfortunately, not finishing with another first place on the podium.
I think that was Mangrabang in the yellow and blue as well, the Filipino athlete who's got another a penalty to serve out as well. But yeah, you're right, Ayueda has got a very similar bathing suit on to the athlete we saw going through in that chase group, but we seem to have lost our pictures just for the moment.
We do some Danish commercials.
You watching Miracle Revival Channel.
And we're back.
Well, we've actually lost the live pictures at the moment. These are just some beauty shots of Santo Domingo that we've got. Hopefully we can get our feedback for you in a moment or two's time.
Oh dear.
So hopefully we'll be back live in Santo Domingo in just a few minutes' time. Well, welcome back. Apologies for the break in picture. So the modern technology we use to bring you these races just letting us down a little bit. So we think it's Taylor Nibb leading at the moment. Claudia Rivas is in second. Andrea Hewitt and Anna Godoy in third and fourth. And they're on the final lap of the run. So these athletes just coming round to move on to the second lap. So I say it is a reduced race in the women's to 5 kilometres.
And this is the second group we see coming through now.
Yeah, so our leaders are well into their final lap.
Remember, Taylor Nibb had a penalty, or has still a penalty. We don't quite sure if she's taking the penalty or not. I think you can see the penalty tent right there, just before transition area.
There's Kishimoto from Japan. So we knew she was well up on the bike. Took a turn at the front on a number of occasions, the Japanese.
We also see Kirsten Casper. Moving up. Coming back up, hopefully on the leaders here soon.
And one of the Mexicans just been passed. There's Perez from Mexico. There's
Andrea
Hewitt. I think that's probably Taylor Nibb. It is indeed. So Taylor Nibb has a bit of a cushion at the moment before they turn for the final stages.
And Andrea Hewitt is not that far back. Which could be very interesting. If Taylor Nibb still has a penalty, Andrea is in striking distance for this. Coming through an aid station right now. Not seeing like she needs need for water. There's a U-turn. So last time turning around here, heading back towards not only the transition area, but the finish area this time, the finish chute.
So we understand it's a 15-second penalty that Taylor Nibb has got to serve. So she needs to build up 15 seconds over second place if she hasn't taken the penalty already, which, looking at her position, I very much doubt she has. Her thinking is, I would imagine, get a good head of steam up. If she can get 15 seconds plus in front, she can serve the penalty and should still be able to cross the line in first. And that probably is her plan, you would imagine.
Yep. The question is now, how big is that distance? It's not that much. It is maybe 15 seconds.
It's going to be. I think she might have to come up with a sprint on the end of it, to be honest, after serving the penalty. But well, she's certainly set out in very positive fashion. You can say that about Taylor Nibb. Obviously gone out very quick with that in mind, the fact she's got this penalty to serve.
And Andrea would know about a penalty, so she knows that if she can stay just in contact with a penalty, she might be right there again. But she's looking good, Taylor. She's coming into this race with a lot of form. I love the way you're racing, how she raced aggressive from the start all the way through.
Yeah, it's been a very good performance from Taylor Nibb so far. So she's raced quite a lot of relay races this year as well. I'm sure she'll be part of the USA team. Certainly for the Chengdu event next year, and then maybe making the American team for
Be interesting
Tokyo.
with the shot back now to see the distance behind her. So it's basically a long, long straight road alongside the ocean.
Unfortunately, we don't have any contact with our camera guys on site that can just get to maybe just swivel that camera around on the bike and just show us where the nearest challenger is. So we're pretty much in the dark as much as you are as to how much the gap is at the moment for Taylor Nibb.
She looks good though. She's got a nice turnover, a nice stride. You can see how much she wants this. She probably like super bummed she got that penalty.
Probably when it's such a basic error, as you say. I mean, you could think, well, I've put that in the box. If it bounces out, you're perhaps unaware of it.
Yeah.
And it's only when you see your number, you go, hang on a second, what's that for?
Yeah.
I'm sure everything was in the box.
You can continue. You can skip your penalty. If you think you're in the right, you think, I haven't done anything wrong, I put everything back, I'm 100% sure. You can skip your penalty and you can protest it. But then if you see that, then they would take out footage, and if there is a penalty, then you're disqualified.
Disqualified,
yeah.
So yeah, probably not worth trying or
No.
going down that road.
You need to be very, very sure of yourself.
And if it's something that has come out of the box, then it's a factual thing anyway.
Yeah.
So obviously they would have checked.
So what happened in race before, I think it was Richard Murray, he was very, very sure he's got the stuff right in the box, but he had accidentally taken the wrong box. So
Right.
he was kind of right that everything was in the box, but it was in the wrong box.
So here comes Taylor Nibb. And here comes Andrea Hewitt. So
it's not that long.
It's not that long. I don't think she's going to have a 15-second gap. And it looks as though Andrea Hewitt is going to take advantage of Taylor Nibb's penalty. Hopefully
Yep.
she knows she's got to serve the penalty. She's only got one turn to go. I'm sure the penalty tent is just at the end of that stretch.
It's going to be an interesting finish. Interesting for Andrea too. She really, really needs to work this last couple of 100 meters.
So here she comes into the
That's the chance.
into the penalty box.
15 seconds. 15 seconds. Here comes Andrea. It's going to be a sprint finish.
And so Andrea Hewitt rounds the corner and she's going to take the gold. It's a great run from Andrea Hewitt. And having not seen her for a while, she's going to take the gold medal here.
And there goes Taylor, but it's too late. Oh, damn.
She didn't quite get the execution right. Andrea
Well
Hewitt,
done, Andrea. Well done.
delighted with the win. Taylor Nibb, credit to her for taking second. She can't believe it, Andrea Hewitt. Maybe she didn't realise Taylor Nibb had got to serve that penalty. And I think that's Claudia Rivas that's just come across the line in third place. So Anna Godoy crosses the line as well.
That's Rivas.
Oh, there's
Perez, maybe. Cecilia Perez would probably be my guess. Got another third place.
Yeah, a couple of the Mexicans racing in at slightly different colours.
It's Kirsten Casper.
So I haven't seen Barbara Rivera come across the line as yet. So she's obviously lost a lot of ground in the run, which is quite unusual for her. Normally such an accomplished runner. And that's Kishimoto from Japan.
She looked so strong on the bike, Barbara. But the heat and the humidity can really, really...
Yuka Sato.
Is that Pitterer?
Lisa Pertera.
So she had a great run.
There's Bragmaier, who led them out to the water. So it was Claudia Rivas that came across the line, I think, in third, wearing number 35, Claudia Rivas. Is it the 35 or 36? We're just trying to work out who's out there. Sarah Village. I'm not too sure Riveros is going to finish this race. I'm sure we haven't seen her. This is the chase group and the second chase group coming across the line as we speak.
The sprint finishes all the way here. Important points, like all the way down. Everyone has everything to race for. Kurikova coming through. And Leher with another solid race. Yuri Ida. Nice to see her back on the course. And Sophie Lynn.
Yeah, she was well placed for a while, wasn't she, Sophie Lynn, out on the bike. But a lot of athletes have come through that chase group to run down into that lead, into the leaders.
It's another sprint finish. It's not just for the podium you sprint for every single place out there.
Yep, every point counts at this stage of the season. One of the Chinese athletes.
I'm not sure if Andrea knew that there was a penalty. She looked very surprised,
She
didn't
did. She was almost like, well, hang on a second, where's Taylor Nibb gone?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to hear in her interview her takes on how the race unfolded.
So it was Claudia Rivas that came across the line in third. So well done to her. So
Great
Andrea
race.
Hewitt in first, Taylor Nibb in second, and Claudia Rivas across the line in third place. And still they come across the line. Well, what a great race. Apologies, as said, for the loss of pictures during that last race. Hopefully it didn't spoil your enjoyment too much, and we got the all-important finish in to see Andrea Hewitt cross the line.
Here's Ayuda coming through. She's still smiling.
Still smiling. I was about to say, still smiling.
Probably not the race she was hoping for to finish the season, but, you know, another good race and probably a very, very solid run.
Well, she can't complain over the last few weeks, can she, Ayuda?
No, it was a terrific end to the season.
So it's a first win for Andrea Hewitt since she won on the Gold Coast in 2017 on the WTS Series, also won in Abu Dhabi that year as well. Just trying to check back when her last World Cup podium was. Hasn't raced much World Cup racing, of course, having been very much a part of the WTS Series. Was second in New Plymouth in 2016. And her last World Cup win, by my reckoning, was Auckland in 2011. So pretty good performance, pretty good day, and a pretty happy lady, I'm sure. Let's go and hear from our race winner with the thoughts, having taken advantage of Taylor Nibb's penalty. Here's the thoughts of Andrea Hewitt.
So, Andrea, congratulations. What a race it was for you, no?
Thank you very much. It was crazy out there. I didn't know until I saw Taylor in the penalty box that she had a penalty, and it was 15 seconds, even though we did a 5K run. I just didn't know until that last corner that I'd won today.
So we saw you that you were behind her, but you didn't know that she had to serve a penalty, or you knew but didn't know that you were going to be able to pass her?
I didn't know, and I didn't know. I was in third at halfway, and I had two girls on me. So I thought I was just going for a podium. But I'm happy that when I finished, I saw the tape, and it's crazy. And it's crazy also to have to celebrate today. Like, on a day like today, it's crazy that I have to celebrate because it's the saddest day of my life. So this date is, it's really special to me.
I know. Congratulations. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So very emotional Andrea Hewitt, who's won here in Santo Domingo. And nice to see her back on top of the podium as well after a layoff, having decided not to travel on the WTS circuit this year due to wanting to spend a little bit more time at home. And she has come out a winner. Taylor Nibb having to serve that penalty. And I'm sure we'll get the thoughts of her in just a moment. Claudia Rivas, who came third, by the way, failed to finish in Lima last week. So a fantastic comeback for her. She was part of the mixed relay team that finished third in the Pan Am Games, second in the Mexican Sprint Championships earlier on this year. And again, just scrolling back, her last podium in a World Cup, 2017 in Mooloolaba. So well done to her. Let's go and hear from Taylor Nibb.
You were in the lead pretty much all the run. What was going through your mind? Because you knew that you had to serve a penalty, no?
Yeah, so actually I was planning to serve the penalty on the first lap because I'm like, okay, then I can catch up to the leaders and hopefully, and like kind of race from there. But one of the USAT coaches actually said, take it on the second lap. And so I had about 100 meters to process it, and did I want to do that? And I figured actually it would be better to take it on the second lap because when I'm racing, I don't look at the penalty board. So I was hoping that Andrea and Claudia didn't see that I had a penalty, and then I was hoping to just build it up and maybe they'd race each other. It was a bit
squirrely on the bike, so I was hoping that would happen on the run and just do everything I could in my control. And I was expecting to be like sprinting in for 4th or 5th, but so it was better than expected. And for Andrea to finish ahead of me, you could not ask for a better person to beat you.
And you haven't been in the podium for quite a few races, but what a good comeback for this end of the season, no?
Yeah, last year I was really antsy around this time, like just race a triathlon. This year, my training, you wouldn't say, oh, she's ready to race a triathlon, but I guess you don't always have to do the same things to do well, so it was a surprise.
How would you define the race? Because you girls were working quite hard all together on the bike, but then you decided to go all in for the run, no?
So I don't mean to sound rude, but we were not working all together on the bike. It was very, very, very squirrely, and I think it's a psychological phenomenon in which, like, if it's better for you to sit in versus, like, for the group, you're going to actually do what's best for you. And so in that case, it was very, like we were sitting up, and it wasn't really fun. So I was just glad to get to the run safely.
Well, thank you very much and congratulations.
Thank you for having us.
So delighted with the silver medal, bearing in mind she had to serve that penalty there, Taylor Nibb. And nice words about Andrea Hewitt as well. Just saying, you know, you couldn't wish for a better person to beat you in a race, which is very nice.
Andrea gone through some really, really tough years, having lost a partner at the very same day as she's winning today, I think. So for her to get on here was probably the most emotional race she's done for many years.
Absolutely. A lovely person, Andrea Hewitt, as well. Here's Claudia Rivas, who finished in 3rd.
Claudia, you finished in 3rd place. Did you know about the penalty that Tyler had to serve?
Yes, I know that, and so sprint, but I'm sorry, no, it's so hard.
How did you feel on the run? Because you were together with Andrea and Anna fighting for this position.
Bueno, ella sabía que estaba en tercero o cuarto y quinto lugar, entonces era el momento de apretar porque Andrea es una gran competidora. Ya me ha tocado competir con ella en una misma situación en Juegos Olímpicos de Río, entonces sé que cierra muy bien y vaya que lo demostró de nuevo.
Enhorabuena, muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias.
So there are our 3 podium finishers. Andrea Hewitt coming out as the winner, Taylor Nibb in 2nd, and Claudia Rivas giving us a mix of English and Spanish reaction there, coming in 3rd place. So obviously we lost a few shots on the run, but hopefully it didn't spoil your enjoyment too much. It was a good race in the end, even though the run was over a slightly shorter distance.
Yeah, no, it was a very good race, and I see what Taylor said, that they didn't really work together. There was a few people taking responsibility, and when that happens and the group sits up in between these athletes taking responsibility, it's a bit on and off. They did build up a good distance to the chase group and the second chase group, and it all came down to the run. The run ended up being quite exciting towards the end of it.
Absolutely. Well, we're not quite over just yet. There is one more thing to do before we round off this ITU World Cup season. We've got the medal presentations for the men's and the women's race. That's coming in just a few moments' time. So join us again for that in just a few moments. So welcome back to Santo Domingo. The men are ready to receive the spoils from their excellent performance earlier on over the Olympic distance. They started off very early this morning, 7 a.m. local time. The men's race went off due to factors with the heat here. And it was Morgan Pearson that came in 3rd. 4 Americans and 3 Swiss went off very quick in the run. It was soon 3 and 3. And then the Americans left the Swiss behind. Pearson running himself through into 3rd place. Good performance.
Yeah, very much so. It was incredible by all 4 of them, really, and how they executed the race. Running together for most of it and just looking like they were controlling the whole thing.
So 2nd place, another American. It was a clean sweep for the Americans. The man 4th in Lima last week, going one better this week, Kevin Mcdowell. A couple of 3rd places on the World Cup circuit this year in Tongyong and Calgary, but getting himself a silver medal here. And then the winner, well,
the man who's been in great form over the last 3 races. He won in Tongyong, he won in Miyazaki in Japan, and Matt Mcelroy, another dominant performance to take gold here. 3 wins to end the season. What a great season it's been.
Yeah, I think 2019 is the season he's going to look back into and feel quite happy about.
Well, he had a 2nd place in Leeds as well on the WTS circuit, so great season for Matt Mcelroy, who's the top-ranked USA athlete at the moment, and you would think pretty much guaranteed to take one of those Olympic spots next year.
Yeah, definitely. I think all 3 of them here are looking pretty good for Olympic qualifications right now.
There's a little bit of confusion. The anthem was playing before he'd even got his medal around his neck there. I think we may start again. Here we go.
Felicitaciones a todos los ganadores de la Copa del Mundo de Triatlón y tu Santo Domingo.
So we did get the American anthem in the end, and a slightly shortened version as well. The athletes have found that quite amusing. But congratulations to Matt Mcelroy, to Kevin McDowell, and to Morgan Pearson finishing the season with a win. And that man clearly doesn't know there's a camera behind him, which is why we're now looking at the back of his head. There's nothing like positioning, is there?
Probably Thomas Affairs not knowing where the camera is.
Well, it's the end of the season, so we'll allow him that.
He should know.
He's brought some great pictures to us this season. Tommy Zafiris actually on social media, so a fantastic job, and of course presenting the WTS show before the races as well, getting a feel for the athletes' mood, etc. So well done to everybody involved, and congratulations to those 3 who I think are going to have another quick photo before they're allowed to leave the podium.
To come back up again for their champagne soon enough.
Yeah, that will be the final act of the 2019 ITU season. A reminder, the season starts again in February in Cape Town with the World Cup race. And then, of course, the World Triathlon Series begins in March in Abu Dhabi. Some big races with a final in Edmonton a little bit later on in the year. Well, I'm sure a lot of these athletes will be just enjoying the hospitality that the Dominican Republic has to offer for their remaining time here. So here come the women who finished their race just a moment or so ago. The men have had a couple of hours just to relax, getting some cold drinks and just enjoy the scenery. And now the women have taken their place on the podium. So in 3rd place, and quite a surprise 3rd place as well, but a much deserved one for the Mexican Claudia Rivas. Good race from her today.
Very much, super impressed by her running.
And the winner of the bronze medal, representing Mexico, Claudia Rivas.
Hasn't had the best of seasons, as we mentioned. Failed to finish last week. So there was a little bit of a twist in the tail at the end of the run because Taylor Nibb had got herself in front, but she had to serve out a 15-second penalty. We heard her say in her interview she wanted to take it on the 1st lap, but one of the coaching staff said take it on the 2nd, and she hadn't quite built up enough of a lead, and she led right to that very last corner when she entered the penalty box.
She came out, not enough time though, and it allowed Andrea Hewitt, the race winner, to go past her, but she did a sterling job to build up any kind of a lead, really.
Yeah, super impressive race straight through, and she's so strong on the bike, and she used that, you know, as much as she could to her advantage.
But it's been a while since she's been on top of the podium. An emotional time as well for Andrea Hewitt, taking advantage of that error from Taylor Nibb. She didn't realise Nibb had got to serve the penalty. She saw her till she saw her in the penalty tent, and the gold medal goes to Andrea Hewitt.
Yeah, well deserved. One of the most consistent athletes has ever been on the circuit, I'd say. Been performing on the highest level of sport for many, many years now.
Yeah, an 11th win in 117 starts for Andrea Hewitt, and she'll get to hear the New Zealand national anthem. So we're getting a slightly shortened version of the national anthem, I think. I think they all seem to be keen to get to the beach bar. The season's over. So pina coladas are on ice and ready to go. So Andrea Hewitt taking the gold, Taylor Nibb the silver, and Claudia Rivas the bronze. And I'll have a few photos, and then the men will rejoin, I'm sure, for the champagne celebration. Always a traditional way to end a triathlon presentation. I mean, overall, you look back over the season, there's been a lot of racing. Of course, we bought, for the first time, TriathlonLIVE.tv's bought all the World Cup races, as well as the WTS races, plus other races from around the world. It's an exciting sport to be involved with at the moment, triathlon.
Yeah, definitely. It's ever moving and evolving, and the Triathlon Federation is doing a great job just to, you know, keep it moving forward. It's growing, as we see in Tokyo next year with a team event, and it's quite exciting to be a part of triathlon right now.
Yeah, well, 2020 season will bring you lots more racing as well. Keep an eye on TriathlonLIVE.tv for all the fixtures, for all the race dates. Don't forget, TriathlonLIVE.org is the place you need to go. All the listings are on there as to where you can see triathlon. All the various tours have announced their tour, like Asia, Oceania, Europe. There's Triathlon Super League, of course, as well. There's Ironman, there's 70.3, there's lots going on in this form of racing. Matt Mcelroy is keen to get the champagne on the go. He says, I've trained hard for the last few months. Now I want to actually drink some. I want to drink some, not just spray it. So on a timely moment for our picture to freeze once again.
Yeah, this bottle's going to be empty by the time we get the picture back. It's a bit of a second race of the day to get the champagne cork out as quick as possible.
Absolutely.
Was it I last week who took her time?
Yes, don't you think she'd be used to it after winning winning the previous week in Miyazaki as well? But she did struggle with the champagne, bless her. But they got there in the end and all had to have a bit of a spray and a bit of a swig of the champagne afterwards. It looks as though we have lost the stream, so unfortunately we don't get to see the final champagne spraying of the 2019 season. Lisa, thanks for your efforts. Thanks for coming in and being a part of the triathlon. It's excellent to have your insight into triathlon and what goes on, and the knowledge that you bring as well has been invaluable this year, so thanks. Lisa Norton's been with us for a lot of races. Lucy Hall joined us earlier on in the year as well. Trevor Harris, Chris Gemmell, an integral part of everything that comes your way. All the guys here at DMC in Stockholm, and from myself, Mark Tompkins. It's been a fantastic season. Hopefully you can join us again next year for more fantastic racing on the ITU World Cup circuit. From us all, have a great Christmas and New Year. It's bye for now.